Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. So for all you Audie fans, he was just about to hop in my lap like 2 minutes ago, and I thought he was going to at least do his usual photo bomb, maybe help me do the intro, but no, he wanted to go out instead, so he is out, prowling the neighborhood looking for mischief. He did not do well last night because we got to sleep an extra hour late. So I wasn't getting up the time he expected me to, which is 4 in the morning. So he started off around 3 in the morning trying to wake me and did not stop until I finally decided to get out of bed. So yeah. Cats and daylight savings time are not a good combination. But Audie, actually, I feel bad for him because he has some excitement of the sort he doesn't like coming up in a couple of weeks. I am having a couple of trees removed from my yard. And Audie doesn't like that. He likes things to be stable. If it's here today, he wants it there tomorrow and there the next day. So I've been indulging him a little, mostly because I know he's in for a bad time. I keep telling myself that I will keep him inside because even though he loves to supervise, I do not want him supervising men taking down large trees, even though I know he thinks he's the best at that job. So I'm going to keep him in and let him watch from a window, and I'm hoping he might find that entertaining enough to make up for the fact that there's going to be a change in his front yard. We'll have to see. All right, we're going to take a quick look at the intro, and we will be right back. So let's start with Andrew, mostly because everything is about Andrew lately. Yes. Charles is, in fact, pulling the plug on all of his titles, not just Duke of Sussex and Knight of the Garter and all the rest of that, but the very title of Prince. Now, can this be done? Well, yes. In the UK, Parliament has to approve of this, but Charles can start the paperwork, get it going, and it is very likely that it will be a rubber stamp approval. And we've seen this sort of thing happen elsewhere. In Denmark, the second son of the late Queen was stripped of his titles along with his wife, his children. Apparently, he was not happy and did not go down without a fight. Did it happen in the end? Yes. Why? Because it's the 21st century, and quite frankly, massive royal families were a hedge against things like infant mortality, death in battle, and all the other things that would take a monarch, especially in the Middle Ages when the monarch was leading troops in battle, off the playing field for good. You wanted a whole bunch of athelings to choose from if something happened to your king. Well, not true anymore. Now, these are just a bunch of surplus people who, as Andrew has proven, can show themselves to be great embarrassments. So, yes, of course, I think Charles is going to be able to pull this off. But there's another reason for this. I do not believe that this is about Epstein per se. Here, get this. I think this is what it's about. And I think one day we are all going to be amazingly grateful to Andrew Lownie for the work he did in this book. Because I have read this. It's a good book. Go get a copy and read it. The stuff he dug up on Andrew it's devastating. We're not just talking about sex scandals, things like Epstein and sex junkets overseas where Ladies of the evening were circulating in and out of Andrew's room like one an hour for an entire weekend. No, it's worse than that. When Andrew was the trade representative for the UK, which was a position his mother created for him, his dealings were so dirty. There was so much graft and so much, the expression that wants to come to my mind is wetting his beak. So much skimming of the money off the top. The financial irregularities, just the ones documented by Lownie, are enough to give you nightmares. So, my theory, and this is just my theory, I do not have a crystal ball, and Charles is not returning my phone calls, which I guess throws me in the same category as the sock puppet. Here's the thing. When I look at the evidence Lownie has, and I look at the only possible way out for Andrew, it all makes sense. There's enough in there to prompt a major investigation that will not only take down Andrew, it will absolutely do that. But it will take down Fergie, whose hands are very, very dirty too, and very probably Beatrice and Eugenie, who at minimum were probably money laundering. And of course, by the time you get down to Beatrice and Eugenie, well, and who knows, maybe they knew what was going on, maybe they didn't. Neither one of them strikes me as very bright, so it's entirely possible they didn't know what was going on. On the other hand, I wouldn't want to have to be them and have to choose between saying, yeah, I know my parents were laundering money through my bank accounts and I did nothing, or no, I didn't know my parents were laundering money through my bank accounts because I'm an idiot. Not a good choice. Andrew would have taken his whole family down with him. And I think he is motivated to protect his daughters and Fergie, because whatever he's guilty of, I don't think anybody has ever said that he's been callous to his nearest and dearest. He does seem to like them and does seem to want to protect them. So I think that was one of the motivations on Andrew's side. There was another motivation, however, on Charles's side. It's very likely the Queen knew, if not everything, much of what Andrew was up to and covered it up. And it breaks my heart to have to say this, but yeah, the late Queen certainly not just looked the other way, but probably actively covered it up. I don't like it. Oh, believe me, I don't like it. But I don't think Charles would want that wonderful 70-plus year legacy of his mother to be tarnished, because she did something very understandable, very natural for a mother, but something historians may not look kindly on, which is to not just clean up after him, but continue to give him the position that allowed him to continue his pattern of abuse of the public trust and the public funds. So I would say, if I were Charles, I'd have done the same thing. I would have made a deal with Andrew just to protect the reputation of the late Queen. I would have done that hands down. So I don't fault Charles for this. And I'm not Charles's biggest supporter. But in this case, I think he's right. I think getting Andrew out of the way, being able to go to the people and say he is simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he is completely neutralized, he will never be able to do anything like this again. He is in disgrace. He will be living out in the country somewhere. Oh, at this point, it looks like it's on the Sandringham estate. So Charles's people can keep an eye on him and make sure it doesn't happen. But yeah, I think that was the only way out for Andrew. And I think it was probably the only possibility of keeping the Queen's good name from being dragged through the mud on this. Sad as it makes me to say it. So, I look at this and say, yeah, I don't need to be a fly on the wall to understand what the deal was and why it was made. And I think it was a good one. I think Andrew is totally neutralized. I think the people have no satisfaction. He's never going to be punished. But did anybody expect he would be? But at least there is the security that he can never, ever recover from this, so that he will be in a position to engage in this sort of abusive behavior. And when I say abusive behavior, I'm not talking about Epstein. I'm talking about the British people, the public trust, because I do believe that is where they could really nail him to the wall. Just my opinion, but I thought I'd share it with you. Well, now that we have Andrew out of the way, let's take a look at Nutmeg and the sock puppet. I spoke in, I believe it was my last video or maybe the one before, about the sock puppet coming out publicly and babbling on about how he does not believe children should be exposed to social media. And I found that staggering, and I decided I wanted to take a closer look at this. Because you know what? Of all of the children out there in the world, I don't think there are very few, perhaps none, that are more exposed on social media than Harry's own putative children. Not a week goes by when photos are not being dropped, and when I was compiling photos for this video, I opened one file, just one of my many files, and I had over 100 photographs of the putative children. Yeah, these kids are all over social media. Why? Because Nutmeg is all over social media. Because Harry is all over social media. What are they thinking? You know, the average person's children will have a minimal social media presence because the only way they get on social media is if the adults around them put their images on social media. If the adults around them give them access to computers and iPads and cell phones and whatever else that will allow them to connect passively to social media. Children cannot do this on their own. They can't. So when the sock puppet is saying children should be kept away from social media, meanwhile, social media is flooded with image after image of his own children. Oh, and it goes beyond just Facebook, Instagram, as ever, with love, Meghan, all the rest of that. Because remember, the children have been featured in With Love, Meghan, and they were also featured in their first, I believe it was their first Netflix project back in 2020. So the fact is, the children have been exploited by their parents from day one. No question about that. On top of that, and when I say that, what I'm talking about is, several million of Nutmeg's fans checking out her Instagram account? Well, we have the mainstream media reissuing all of these pictures. She puts something on Instagram, and it shows up in one of the papers the next morning. It shows up in Hello Magazine or Mary Claire, etc. And whenever Nutmeg and the sock puppet are mentioned in the media, the children are always mentioned too. Why? Because Nutmeg and the sock puppet make sure of that. Because most of these stories are crafted around their public relations releases. If you read a story about someone, and I will just choose someone who is arguably more famous than Nutmeg or the sock puppet, and I'm going to go with Donald Trump. No, I won't. I won't even go with Trump because he can be irritating to some people. Let's go back to John Kennedy. Everybody loved John Kennedy. When John Kennedy's name is mentioned, is it ever father of two? No. Do the papers feel the need to say John Kennedy, father of John Jr. and Caroline? No. No. No one else has their children dragged through the press the way Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet do. Why? Because they want this done. They want the world to know that their putative children are a prince and princess. And they get annoyed if people don't use their titles, as we all know. So the fact is, this is something they are bringing on themselves. And then, at the same time, and this is why it's a problem, they're criticizing all of the social media outlets, that they are unsafe and unhealthy for children. If they're so unsafe and so unhealthy, why are your children's images spread all over them? I was about to say faces, but lately they've been blocking out the faces. But not always. Hasn't always been that way. We have plenty of images of these children's faces. They only decided to block out the images when they wanted to take the position that they were shielding their kids from social media. In what way? I mean, seriously, in what way? You put your kids' images on social media, drop a heart on it, and say, well, that doesn't count. We didn't really put them out there. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And they are the ones doing it. When you see pictures of the little Cambridge kids, well, they're not even so little anymore. A couple of them are getting pretty big. But see the images of the Cambridge kids? Many times those photographs have been taken by Catherine because she is a gifted amateur photographer and she seems to enjoy it. It's a hobby she really seems to like. And of course, the children are very relaxed around their mother, so she gets great pictures. But most of the images we see of those children are not put out there by their parents. The children are taken out to public events, and the whole media, everybody, all of the press, from the legitimate press right down to, the National Enquirer style tabloids, they all have access to the children. They all get the photographs, and the children's images are not curated by mommy and daddy. They're out there. The children are made available to the public very organically. Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet hide the children away, take the pictures, and they control what goes out to the media. Nobody else even has access to these kids. So it makes it that much worse, given the fact that they cannot blame other people. Oh, the newspapers printed pictures of my kids. No, you exposed your children yourself. And of course, when we look at the pictures, we can clearly see these are not photos, taken by mommy and daddy. Or if they are, mummy's in the photos, daddy's sometimes in the photos. Who knows who's taking the pictures? But it is very clear that most of these are taken by someone who is on the scene for the purpose of photographing the children. That just makes it even creepier. So when I look at this and I see that the Sock Puppet is, well, first of all, he's preaching to us, as he always does. He's virtue signaling. I won't have my children on social media. He's lying because his children are on social media. And obviously with his knowledge and consent, because if Nutmeg was doing it behind his back, he could stop this. He could. So he's basically telling everyone else, you and me, everyone else out in society, that we should keep our children off social media. Why? So he can have the whole field to himself, so that only his children are featured in social media. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But what I am seeing is children who are not just exposed, but significantly overexposed. These children are featured on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, all of the social media platforms and the mainstream media with greater frequency than any other children out there. It's like, why isn't anybody calling them on this? Why is it this man can sit down on a podcast, look at someone and say, my children aren't on social media, and nobody looks at him and says, liar, liar, pants on fire? Because, in fact, he is saying one thing and doing another. And then he tries to make Mr. and Mrs. Average Joe off in Kansas feel guilty because they posted a birthday party photograph that featured their kids in the neighborhood, kids and whatever. Oh, they're putting their children at risk. Really? Really, Harry? It has hit the point where I am so deeply, profoundly irritated by the hypocrisy, the virtue signaling, the do as I say, not as I do preaching, that, getting crazy over it. But I did want to talk about this, and of course, I have been showing pictures throughout this video. This is just from one of my files. And by the way, when I saw how many photos were in the first file I opened, I said, well, we don't need any more than this. It's very, very clear that these children are all over the media and have been since day one. But I did want to leave you with this quote. So this is a comment Nutmeg made at a summit run by Fortune magazine back in 2020. There are very few things in this world where you call the person who's engaging with it a user. People who are addicted to drugs are called users, and people who are on social media are called users. Well, aside from the inanity of the statement and the blatant falsity of it, because there are a great many things people do that results in them being called users. Computer users, wheelchair users, braille users, public transportation users. That it's stupid. Nevertheless, it's very clear that what she was trying to do was liken social media to drug addiction. Very ironic, given that she used social media extensively prior to hooking up with the sock puppet, and she is using social media extensively now. But this is part of that whole do as I say, not as I do. Rules for thee, but not for me. So this is where it is really just yanking my chain, because while they, and primarily this is the sock puppet, but Nutmeg has been at his side when he has been doing this, while they are speaking to parents of children who might be at risk of harm as a result of social media, and basically saying, keep your kids off social media, which, I'm sorry, but that sounds an awful lot like blame the victim to me. You know, what kind of message are you giving these parents, except that if you had properly kept your kids off social media, they wouldn't be in trouble now? Or meanwhile, not only are his kids on social media in the most real sense of the word, but they are on social media to a far greater extent than any other children on the planet. Somehow that's okay. What, you put a little heart on somebody's face, that makes it okay? No, it does not. And the idea that they can cloak themselves in this notion that they are protecting the children. Whose children are they protecting? They are not protecting their own putative children. They are exploiting them. Those children are overexposed. Everything they do. And it's, again, not just Facebook, Instagram. It's the television programs that Nutmeg is doing. It is pictures that they are handing over to newspapers, magazines, anybody who is willing to publish 2 words about them. It is the stories their public relations firm is dumping on the media left and right. And again, the insistence that, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, parents of Archie 6 and Lilibet 4, well, usually it's Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, because they got to get those titles in there. That doesn't happen to other people. It doesn't. So why is it that no one is calling them on it? Why is it that no one is saying, practice what you preach? If you truly believe social media is bad, get your children's faces off Instagram. No, it's not happening. All right, as you can see, because I've been showing my pictures while this video's been going on, I have tons of them, and this is just barely scratching the surface. So there's no reason to believe this is going to stop anytime soon. Either the flooding of the media with the children, or the sock puppet whining and complaining about everyone else who is not doing their bit to keep their own children off social media. We're going to be continuing to live with this hypocrisy because, again, nobody will call him out on it. So that is what I have for you today. I think, if nothing else, it's food for thought. So thank you for being with us. We are going to watch a slideshow on the way out, as we always do, because, the reason, for those of you who have not been with the channel from the beginning, the reason we do a slideshow at the end is because, quite frankly, Nutmeg and the sock puppet leave a bad taste in my mouth, so I want something happy going out into the real world again. And this time, it's going to be one of my favorite slideshows because I was speaking about the Cambridge kids, and I do love looking at those little darlings. So, thanks for being with us. Hope to see you again next time. And in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.